It's tricky to try and work it all out.
Do you like that? I think this is like an interesting part of cycling, and even talking to amateur cyclists. I talked to this guy in Texas the other day. And he's like, "Well, it's really weird. We hit out super hard in February until like April, then it gets deathly hot. So people like the races kind of dwindle because no one wants to race. Then we come back hard in fall, and so it's kind of like picking, choosing, crafting when you're going to try and be good. Do you like this puzzle, or is it?
I think it's I love it, but it's also it's so difficult in our sport when there is so many races.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many kind of there's so much. You kind of almost have to. It's quite difficult to peak to actually peak. In the same way that if you're a 400-meter runner, or you've kind of got you've got less competition, so it's almost easier to target said competition. You have it's easier to sort of periodize your training leading up to that point. Whereas in our job, it's like, yes, I kind of need to come into the season going really well, but I also need to be able to use those races to build and be better and get better with the races. But you're not in control of the races. And nowadays the racing's so hard that you almost have to. Like, I think it was last year where there was a day of Paris-Nice that was cancelled because of the wind. Was it last year? I think it was last year.
I don't
Yeah,
know. I
but
was gonna say, because it's
basically,
so hard for us to even keep up watching all the races, let alone doing the races. So it's like,
but we basically had like a day off in the middle of Paris-Nice, and I was
okay.
actually thinking, wow, this is great, because normally Paris-Nice is borderline too hard if you're then going to go to San Remo and do the races after that. But I was like, no, this is great. I'm going to be able to just. Paris-Nice is going to be the kind of load of Paris-Nice will be not as bad as it could be, which could potentially tip you over the edge of being too fatigued. I think that's the real balance, and I think I definitely messed up a little bit last year with just potentially overdoing it, because you don't. The racing, it's so on. This nowadays, like, straight first race of the year is actually sometimes the hardest ones, and you almost
Mm-hmm.
have to. It's managing how much you rest and actually how much you recover from those races that is quite difficult, because say you're in March and a race hasn't gone well, your mentality is going to be like, oh, I need to train more, I need to get myself better. But actually, maybe you're just a bit tired. You probably need to do the opposite of what you think, which is kind of the slight attitude I'm taking into next year. I'd say is just doing less, almost.
Embracing less is more at times.
Yeah, yeah. But that doesn't mean we're not riding our bikes stupid hours all the time. But it's like it's making sure you really stop at points,
Mm-hmm.
and soak it all up, rather than, because ultimately I keep riding my bike. It's out of a desire to get better. It's with the right intention, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably I'm adding too much fatigue to myself, and it's probably not going the right way. But it's,
You,
as you said, it's very tricky, and I feel like I'm going to spend my whole career being like, "Oh, this worked, so I'll do this," and then the next year I'll do the same thing. It won't work the same way. Then I'll be like, "Oh no, I've got to do this," and then it's going to be an endless cycle.
it's super interesting to hear how you guys think about it. I just did a podcast with Alex Kirsch from Lidl, and he was like talking about, when does he copy and paste? He's like, well, I was running really hot then. Do I redo that? Or like, have things changed, and what's coming after? And what did I do before? And it's like trying to
Yeah,
put these all together as you guys go through is really interesting to hear, just the verbalization of the training.
because it's so, yeah, it's not that simple, because even now I kind of, you start the season, I'm doing similar kinds of efforts. I've had so many long chats with my coach about this, but similar kinds of efforts to last year. But last year I'd broken my collarbone in August, and there was quite a lot of time that I'd had off. So I was actually coming, because you almost have to look at it at an even bigger picture. Like I did quite a lot of racing at the back end of this season, and okay, I did have 4 weeks off, but you're already probably going to be starting at a slightly better level than I did the year before. It's like even the year I did the Vuelta, man, you come you even after 4 weeks off, you come into it and I was at straight away like, wow, okay, I know, I can tell that I've got this extra bank, extra base, that because it's not just you get your Training Peaks 40-day CTL value or whatever, but actually it goes back further than that. I think way further. So it's. But what I'm saying is, I think I should be in a better place coming into next season. But to be honest, I don't really know. I don't think anyone you ever really know.
What, as you mentioned, base, what is, so we're recording this on November 19th. This probably won't post until like January. What are you doing November, December that you can share to prepare for, will the first race be in February or late January?
Well,
I guess you don't know yet.
For me, will probably be mid-Feb, I reckon. First
Okay.
race.
So then, yeah, so we've got 3 months. What are the next 3 months going to mainly consist of for you to get ready for that?
It's just the way I've sort of always kind of periodized it is right now up until maybe the December camp, you really just you build up kind of from zone 1 to zone 2, and maybe you trickle in a bit of zone 3, and that's all the way up into December camp. You don't actually, I don't tend to go really that, like, start with that early with the kind of VO2 harder efforts. I think I sprinkle in a lot of sprints and kind of starts to keep that punchiness going, and I'm often I'm spending the most time in the gym in this period now. But it's kind of like building up a sort of quite a strong base alongside the gym of just sort of kind of zone 2 riding, just sort of blocks of pressing on a little bit of torque work. But it's mostly, I've realised, I think it's hard to do any more intensity when you're spending extra time in the gym. I think the gym is, the dom, you do get DOMs, and it's like managing the gains from that. I think if I didn't do any gym, I probably would sprinkle in a bit more intensity here and there. But actually, when you're on sort of 2, sometimes even earlier in sort of start of November, 3 gym sessions a week, I think it's good to try and get the most out of that. And I think the gym, I think it will. I feel like it will definitely pay dividend the more I do it over the course of my whole career. I think it's really valuable just to create robustness, and I think I'm quite lucky that as an under 23 I was supported by British Cycling, and we always had some kind of gym program. I probably didn't follow it as religiously as I do now, but I still had that sort of structure of doing gym stuff. And as a result, I can't think of many times I've had like knee niggles or any problems like that. So from a kind of injury prevention, I think it's really good to sort of this period get in the gym. And then I guess, yeah, performance wise, it's funny though, I can't say that it hasn't helped, but I do you know what I mean? It's if I didn't do the gym, maybe I wouldn't be as explosive. I don't know. It's these things are so, they're not simple things to measure, but I definitely I kind of like mixing it up, going to the gym, do some squats, and then I love this time of year for riding because it's kind of quite straightforward. You don't have to kind of remember what your sets of training are. It's like, okay, I'm going to go out, do this loop with some friends, maybe press on a bit on this climb. It's a good time of year to be riding your bike, that's for sure.
So you mentioned squats. What lifts do you think move the needle the most for you or give you the most gains for riding a bike?
I kind of varied it a bit in the past, but sort of most sessions for me will involve some kind of back squat variation, and then a bit on the leg press, and maybe, I mean, I don't like doing them. That's probably because that means they're probably good for me to do them. But like some kind of split squat, whether it's like a Bulgarian or something like that, I think that's most of my sessions are based around those kind of three key lifts. Maybe I put some RDLs in there, or like I was deadlifting a bit in the past, but I think you kind of get, it's better to do that with like the trap bar, not like just a straight deadlift, because you can kind of mess up your back a little bit if you get too excited. You know, sometimes if you go into a public gym and you see all these big guys lifting heavy weights and you're there, you scrawny little cyclist, you kind of get tempted to. I did sort of mess up the other day. There was, there was sort of four spots to squat, and the woman I think it was a woman in front of me or next to me was just, it was really impressive how low she was squatting to, and I was like almost questioning myself, like, oh, actually, I don't think I'm squatting. Maybe I'm not squatting deep enough. So I definitely paid the price of squatting a little bit too deep after that day. Just trying not to look like trying to look like I know what I'm doing, you know.